All right, friends, today on the podcast, we are at the Momentous building in Park City, Utah. I have Jeff Byers here, who's the CEO. He's going to tell us all about his story of building this business and why it is what it is. They're the only supplement company that I've interviewed, and there's a reason for that. So without any more further ado, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah.
Let's get into your background a little bit, because I think that's really what drove you to where you are today. But I want to start even before football days.
Okay.
Like, little kid, who are you?
I was a kid that asked every question.
Okay.
Right? And endless energy. My parents put me in everything to stay busy, to get tired. Like, the goal is, how do you get Jeff tired? And therefore I was crazy active. I come from a really active family, but just always busy. I was always curious. I have 3 very active boys too, so that active DNA gene definitely passed on. I was always passionate about sports, but didn't know. I wanted to, Michael Jordan was my hero. I grew up in the 90s on that, but I grew up in Colorado. I grew up in the outdoors, camping, biking, hiking, skiing, and all of that, and really have grown to love what nature can do for me. So anyways, that was little Jeff.
And how did football become a part of your life?
I didn't start playing football till middle school. My dad played D1 college football, and it was something I loved. I actually loved basketball. Basketball was my first love. I just happened to be not really tall, and I couldn't shoot the ball.
How tall are you though?
I'm 6'4", but I'll be like a point guard.
Yeah, right.
And I played center in high school, but I love football. And football is one of the ultimate team sports, and it was something that allowed me to do a lot of other sports too. And because football is one of those few sports that's not seasoned all year round, and that's a really special thing about it. And playing a bunch of other sports is actually really good for football.
And everything else in life.
And everything else is what they find, except for we just specialize. That's a whole nother 6-hour conversation. And I just fell in love with the combination of training, practice, and the cognitive side of football. I don't think people realize how cerebral football is. It is a very heavy cognitive sport, and the position that I played, offensive line, is very, very intense when it comes to how we think, how you have to make decisions, the playbook, the different schemes, and how the different schemes change based upon what the defense lines up on every day. And so I really kind of fell in love with the game and the mental aspect of it. I obviously have a very good DNA, and my genetic code allowed me to be a very good football player.
And that football career of yours really opened you up to this next business that you guys got into, because it gave you access to so many things that you realize the regulars do not have access to.
Yeah, it really, my football journey through the NFL was a really unique one. And I saw a lot of things that maybe a lot of athletes didn't get to see. And partially that was I got hurt really early on in my college career, and I played football at USC and was lucky to be on a national championship team and play as a true freshman. And then I missed 2 seasons for really serious injuries. I had 2 hip surgeries and I had 2 back surgeries in back-to-back years. And therefore I went from, being just a pure athlete to always trying to figure out how do I take better care of myself. And I became really close with the strength staffs, the performance staffs, the physical therapists, the trainers. And it's just how do I find what are they doing and why are they doing it? It was really interesting to me. So I started my curiosity of when I got hurt, it's I'm gonna go pick this person's brain. What can I do here better? Why are we doing this? What's up with protein? Why are we doing these exercises in this day versus that day? Why do we pair? And so my curiosity just kept going, and it's what kept me in football. Realistically, is those relationships and how I was able to think about optimizing myself for the game through these tools that we had. And so anyways, fast forward, played in the NFL for a handful of years, was a journeyman, nothing special, had a lot of fun, started a few games. But when I retired, there was always life after football for me. And there wasn't always.
Oh, there wasn't. So this kind of something evolved.
When I, as a true freshman, starting on a national championship team,
yeah,
my path was pretty clear. Of, hey, I'm going to go be a first-round draft pick. I was at USC, right? Like that was where I thought, like football defined me. And like many athletes, like when you get it, when you're in it so deep, you let that sport beat you.
Yeah.
Rather than the sport shapes you, it defines you. And at a really young age, I got this lightning strike. And the lightning strike was football is not you. You are you. Football is a part of you, but it's not who defines you. And I needed to make decisions and choices about what was after football and what was after sports. And that really transitioned me out of the NFL because I had a long-standing job offer. And I took school very seriously. I got my undergrad and my master's in business while I was still playing at USC before I went to the NFL. So to me, there was life after ball, but there at a point. And it took a big lightning strike. It took 2 back surgeries and 2 hip surgeries to like realize like there is a lot more in my life, and there's going to be a lot of time, and I need to prepare, and I need to find out. And it also drove me to find out what I loved about football. Right. And like, and then therefore it's like, oh, I love the preparation. I love the stress. I love the amount of effort that you can put in, and you can make it yours, right? Like you can choose to outwork people. You can choose to you can choose to show up more than other people. You can choose to have I call it having a short memory, because you always get beat. You always make mistakes, but the ball always gets snapped. And so like how you respond to all these things, like make it. And that's what I kind of fell in love with. And that's what,
the mindset piece. Yeah.
Like, and that's what entrepreneurship was. And it took me a little while after football to find that I wanted to be an operator. I wanted to be in an early stage company. I wanted to found a company. And so when I left football, I jumped into, kind of classic finance and investing, and realized this is not who I was. It didn't fill the void that sports had for me. Right. And that void was this immense amount of pressure and stress that you can make what you want of it, and the ball always gets snapped. Like it's kind of like you have to have a short memory. You always have to make a decision. Like it doesn't matter if you're ready or not, you better go. And that to me was, I chased that for a while, and I finally ended up at this biotech company where I met my co-founder Erica, and she was in the first 3 employees. I was in the first 5 employees, and she's a pro from a completely different background. She was at McKinsey and Company, and very classically trained business, but in one of the most highest stress, like really high profile, grueling jobs of like, they demand so much, they screen it. I mean, if you would say like, what's the pressure like in football? It's probably very similar to McKinsey. So we really bonded over this pros from another world. And then we realized our core values really overlapped in terms of like, what is our purpose and our why? Like, it's bigger than us. Our will to win, right? Integrity and inclusivity is really, really there. And then it's this grit. And it's like, we get to choose how we show up every day, and nobody else gets to take that away from us. And so, grit is used often, and I think it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But for me, it's this combination of attitude and effort. And those are the 2 things. My dad, when I remember this pretty vividly as a boy, and he said, son, there are 2 things you can control in your life that are really important. There's a lot of things that you can control that don't mean anything, and there's a lot of really important things that you can't control. But these 2 things that you can control and that are important are your attitude and your effort. Only you can control how you show up every day, how you respond to situations. That's your attitude, what you choose to do, right? And then only you know if you gave it your all. And those are the 2 things that you can control, that can control the most in your life. And so I've really taken that, and that to me kind of encompasses grit. Grit is not just hard work, and it's not just like, it's doing the hard things when nobody else sees you, right? It's making hard decisions. It's putting a smile on, even though sometimes you don't want to put a smile on, and finding joy in the suck.
Yeah, right. If you can find joy in the suffer, game over, the world's yours. Yeah. Like 1,000%.
So that's kind of like, those things bonded us. And we ended up spinning out of this biotech company in 2018 and founding the underlying entity behind Momentous. That's called Vamphuman. And that you actually got exposed to AMP. So we were this, we had this technology that came out of a biotech. It's called PR lotion. It's a really fascinating product. It's really niche-y, but it's really, really cool. And that product was partially funded by the Department of Defense. We had really great traction in pro and college sports, Tour de France champions, marathon world record holders, because of what it did and what it unlocked in the body was a really cool thing. But that product was never going to be enough to start a business. And what we had was this really unique ecosystem of people. And I can recall we were at a board meeting end of 2019, and our board was like, you have to go into supplements and nutrition. It's so natural. Like, you're working with these pro and college sports teams. And I'm like, no, hell, not even just no, hell no. I don't want to touch the space. Don't want anything to do with it. And this is coming from a person who
just came from it.
But I've probably spent or have had spent on me $1 million+ in supplements and sports nutrition. If you think of all the Gatorade, all the protein that I've consumed over the course of my life.
The collagen, the creatine, all of it.
So much. Like, it is an unfathomable amount. But it was why didn't I want to go in there? It's because the space is so messy and there's no barriers to entry. And I saw us as a human performance company, a high performance company, not a supplement company. And because what PR Lotion was doing had never been done before.
And how did you come up with that technology to begin with?
So that was at the biotech. Biotech was focused on transdermal drug delivery, right? Transporting pharmaceuticals through the skin into the body.
Yep.
And PR Lotion helps transport bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate into the body. And bicarb's role is to help neutralize acid in the muscle.
So those of you that are listening that this is too technically advanced for, I'm going to slow them down a second. You know when your muscle is sore after working out, this PR lotion helps absorb the things that make your muscle sore.
Yes.
So then you don't have that soreness and you can continue to function and carry on with your activities.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, pretty good. Pretty good description. So, but the problem is, like, bicarbonate is really hard to consume orally. It causes massive GI distress, right? Like, I call it double dragon because things come out both ends, can come out both ends very, very violently. But it's naturally produced in the body, and there's, call it 5 decades worth of really good research on it. So PR Lotion was this really incredible product. It was this passion product of the biotech that had consumer and prosumer type of applications. And so we spun it out with this idea that we can leverage PR Lotion to create a company around high performance. And we thought, we could go get hardware, software, other types of tech, and bolt it onto this thing to really become like a human performance company. Anyway, so in 2019, kind of said, hell no, not something I'm interested in. Fast forward, right? COVID happened, and it's like, okay, we need to go. And it's like, there's a gap in the market. And it was one of those things that I had a friend that's like, dude, you use supplements and you don't believe there's anybody out there that resonates with you. There's a couple good brands. You got to do it. It was like one of those things. It was like, this is the moment. And then we're like, okay, we're going to build it ourselves. Right?
That's a lot.
And so we go down this path. We designed a couple products. And what we found was it was really easy.
Really?
It was incredibly easy to build a supplement company, but incredibly hard to do it right, to do it better than it's ever been done before.
Okay.
And what does that mean? It's like, to do all the certifications, to do the sourcing, to do, have the right manufacturing, it's really inhibitive at a small scale from a cost perspective. And it's very slow. Anyways, we started chugging along, and it just felt disingenuous. Okay, we're gonna launch a protein powder, another Me Too recovery. Is that really who we are? Or is this truly the best that we can make? Right? And the best that we can make needs to be, right, for the Department of Defense, for pro and college sports, for these people that demand the best. Because ultimately, that's what we saw was what is happening at pro and elite sports is not happening in the consumer, right? How we think about optimizing performance, and you can call performance on the field a performance for life, which is like, how do we age gracefully and how do we do the things we love for longer? It's the same thing, right? Like, when we think about like soft tissue health, like, almost everybody has a hyper ice or a foam roller or something. Like, that started in pro and college sports to how do you take care of your body to make you feel better. Supplements are the same way, except for there's this huge gap. It's the Wild West. Anyways, so we get down this path and it's like, I just felt like us creating a couple of Me Too's was not the answer. And we kept running across this brand in pro and college sports. It's called Momentous. I got to know one of their board members, and they were looking where to take this brand to the next level. And so Erica and I took a run at it, and we ended up acquiring the company. And we merged the two businesses together in 20.
Okay, there's a lot of steps that were just skipped there.
Oh, lots. I would say.
But I do like the fact that you took time to try it yourself, and then you realize, okay, if there's somebody that we're running into in this space that already has momentum, funny their name's Momentous, is there something that we can partner with, and where are they in the space, and where do they want to go, and how do you create this synergy to move forward? And it was decided after, I'm sure, tons of vetting and all the stuff that you got, you know what, we're going to buy this. When did you identify Momentous to buy it, and when did the transaction happen? Because that gives people an idea of how long these things really take to happen.
It was faster than I would originally think. It was probably early 2021, and we closed the deal July 1st of 21. It was clear, like there was alignment to be had, and there was a deal to be done on there. Like that was known, and so it wasn't like, and we weren't both gigantic companies. We're both pretty small, and so we had a lot of flexibility in terms of what we could do, and it wasn't that complex. Now, after that, putting the two companies together is still to this day the most challenging thing I've ever done. Essentially, it took us 2 years. It took us until last year, right, to really get the two businesses together, get the right cap table, get the right board, get the right team. During COVID, having fully remote and trying to take two cultures and build one, we failed miserably at that. And one of the big lessons I learned is you can't take two cultures and blend them together. It doesn't work. You got to pick the culture and set it and go. And everybody's got to make that move. Like there's no blending of cultures, right? It is like in a company, like Eric and I set the culture, and we were trying to take the two and be like, oh, let's keep everybody happy. And that's not like, it's not going to
happen.
The culture's not for everybody, and you get to choose. And that was really hard. And that was about a 6-month process to just like figure out, what the hell are we doing? No, this is what we believe in. This is our core values. I don't care what they say about, like, if that doesn't resonate with somebody, that's not my problem.
Yep.
Right?
I love that attitude.
Right?
Okay. Like, here's who I am. This is what you get. You get to attract to me, or you get to leave.
It's really hard because we took two companies that were pretty close in size, right? And both had really passionate investors and boards. And it's like, everybody, like who do you listen to? And like, you want to keep everybody happy and play in the sandbox nice, or that's what you're told. But at the end of the day, trying to play in the sandbox nice is actually really, really hard when you actually have people from two different sandboxes. One loves trucks and the other one hates trucks. And you're like, that doesn't work. And so it's like, we're either trucks or not trucks, or we're all about shovels. And like we said, we're all about shovels. We're doing it a different way, right? We're not Vamphuman. We're not this consumer biotech with PR lotion, and we're not Momentous 1.0. We are Momentous. And this is where we're setting. This is the tempo. This is what we want to do. This is our vision, and really resetting that. And then it took us, right? I mean, it took us to get that, and then we had to build a team, right? And then we had to figure out, the last part was like, we had to figure out the right investor base, right? What does the shareholders look like, and make sure our shareholders were aligned with our vision. Our vision wasn't just to make great protein powder. Our vision was to build the anti-supplement company, do it better than it's ever been done before, lift this industry with other great brands alongside of us up and make a bigger impact in the world and change it.
And how hard is it to find an investor that's willing to do that? So you had to find investors that bought into the mission and were willing to make less profit to have a better end product.
I don't know if they're willing to make less profit. I think they're willing to invest in different things because they share a similar thought on the industry.
Okay.
So, right, it might make less profit in the short term.
Right.
But in the long term, what we're trying to build is a real brand.
Right.
That has real staying power. And in our category, that's the problem. In our category, that's not how it works.
No, it's not.
Right? It is marketing, spend dollars in Facebook and Meta, and like how much and how quick can you get pretty marketing and the Instagram influencers and these people to pump it, and you build a great revenue company. And then you flip it or you sell it or whatever. And that was not our goal. Our goal was not to just be a protein company. And the investors that we have now, like, they believe in building a real brand, and real brands have real value. There's some risk in there. And like for us, like, we invest in clinical research, we invest in country of origin, how we source. Like, we have what we call strategic sales, which is selling to pro and college sports. And that's like, people are like, oh man, that must be a huge business. You're like, it's actually not that great of a business. But what it does, it helps inspire how we make products and keeps us true to our standards. And so it has more value. We call it strategic specifically because it has more value than just the revenue number itself. So we anchored our investors like this is strategic sales. It's strategy. It's really like, it helps us in the long term. It helps position us very uniquely. So anyways, it is hard to find the right group. And it took me and Erica a long time to find the right big partner. Right. And we found that last year.
Really? Okay.
And it was huge. And it, like, the patience and the belief in us doing it better than it's done before, right? Our standards, and being like, no, your standards are true. Like, we took a product off the market earlier this year. It was called Fedosia, and we put it on the market and we kind of took a flyer on it. And we call it products at the pace of discovery. Like, can we find new products that could have a big impact in certain areas? But the clinical research on Fedosia was really, really early when we did it. And we expected that clinical research to continue to evolve. And over a 2-year time, it didn't. And so we just made a decision, like, the strength of this research does not warrant it to be in our curated portfolio anymore. And so we removed it from the market. That's $400,000 in revenue a month that we gave up.
How do you have the courage to do that?
Because our standards are what makes us special. We have the right people at the table.
And that builds confidence in the business all the way around.
Yeah. And you know what? The feedback we got from consumers, because we're like, hey, we don't believe in the strength of the research anymore, was incredible. Like, the feedback, you know, when you get customers that write in, well, you guys could have just kept taking my money, but you chose not to.
That gives me goosebumps.
So different. Anyways, yes. In the short term, it hurts.
Yeah.
Like, but it was the right decision. And in the long term, it should pay us dividends, because our standards are what makes us special. People don't do these things in our industry. It's what makes our industry, right? And it's so frustrating. It's only hard because when you're focused solely on a revenue or a profit number, it clouds good decisions. And ultimately for us, like, we believe we can make an impact in the world, and we have this big, hairy, audacious goal, right? It's like, how do you shrink the gap between health span and lifespan, right? Like, basically, how long do you live, and how long do you live your life that you want to live? How long are you still an active contributor to society? Like, right, health span, lifespan, that's all about longevity. Like, you want to ski and climb mountains till the day you die, right? And so do I. But if, you know, we have cognitive decay and you're 80 and you live to your 90, that's a 10-year gap. So our goal is, in our lifespans, how do we help minimize that? And you don't do that by making revenue profit decisions in the short term. You do that by making decisions and putting the consumer first in the long term. And where we're lucky is we have a long-term investor that believes doing the right thing is more important than making money today.
How are you determining what products to continue in your line and continue to do research on? And are there products we don't see yet that you guys are working on behind the scenes?
So I'd say the thing that has made us super special is we didn't build the brand as a marketing consumer brand. We built the brand in the high performance space. And so one of the things that I think made us so unique is I call this the flywheel of being at the forefront of high performance. And so we've won now 9 innovation contracts with the Department of Defense. That helps fund research. It helps fund product development. We have a really cool product coming to market that's in the form of a pre-workout, but it's a stimulant base that was partially funded by the Department of Defense, which is super cool. But you don't need a consumer a ton. And the problem with our types of products, protein powders or pre-workouts or any of that, is like, you use these things daily, if not more than once a day. And like, you get your sucralose and your other things. Like, I don't believe if you're doing something for health and wellness and performance, like, you shouldn't have to cut corners. And so for us, we've delayed this launch as we try to get the sweetener system right without using sucralose without using an artificial sweetener. Anyways, it's been a challenge.
What are you using as your sweetener then?
We're using, stevia, right?
Okay.
Right now we're trying some other things, but one of the main ingredients is really, really bitter. It's this whole learning lesson in anything. And like you could launch it with like sucralose is easy to make things taste good. It is crazy. Like you can make them taste like anything because it's whatever 1,000 times sweeter than sugar.
Wow. When do you turn it into a pill then? So then you just swallow it and you don't have to taste it.
When we think about product, first off, our portfolio is really important. My vision and our vision for our category is it's not a widening of an aperture, right? There are hundreds and hundreds of ingredients that you can use in products. It needs to be a narrowing of the aperture, right? Like less is more. Like it's the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do in our industry or 20% of our industry drives 80+% of the value to the humans. And so all this other stuff is just noise. And if we can narrow the aperture, you can have a bigger impact by getting people into the right products that have the biggest impact for them. And then there's always going to be these corner cases, always. But those corner cases don't really matter if you don't manage the core. That's how we look at it. So not let's be everything to everybody. Let's be the most important things for the performers and get people in the right products at the right time. So, because that's what I saw in the NFLs, is that's what they did, is they got you or me or anybody into the right products.
You know, I'm an athlete, so I'm getting my blood work done at least once a year to see like, hey, how are things coming back and what do I need to supplement when I don't? Like I actually was high on vitamin D the last time I went. Like who's high on vitamin D in today's day and age? Very few people, but I take my vitamin D religiously and my vitamin B was like struggling. So we're like, okay, that's where we need to put our focus. With your level of performance of the consumer, are they that type of consumer where they're doing that check-in?
But we call our customer Achiever Sam. Right. So Sam is kind of our core customer. We named him, it's archetype, and then we have different flavors of Sam. But Achiever Sam is you. Right. It's like this person who constantly seeking knowledge, is curious about all aspects of performance for life. Right? Not just like not performance from a sports perspective, but performance for life. How do I optimize and be better? Within that, like you have this little point of people that are like super dialed in supplement land. Like they know what to do, they know how to do it, they've been doing it for a really long time. And they're like, they believe in it, they trust in it, and like they found, you know, the handful of really great players in our category. Because there are some awesome supplement companies, like awesome, that have made great products. I just think there's an opportunity to be a great brand and make great products. And then there's this whole nother circle around it. And these are the people that are like on and off supplements. They aren't really sure. There's some lack of trust. They're confused, etc. And that's the really cool circle that we get to influence. And how do you get people in the right products? And how do you teach people about these are the non-negotiables, right? In our category.
And what's the number one non-negotiable in your category?
There are 3 kind of nutritional supplements that matter the most, that have the most amount of research behind them, that have, right? So I'll get it. Number 1 is protein, right? Fundamentally, protein is the core building block of everything in our body. Fats, carbohydrates, nothing else can be built into protein, right? Into those amino acids. So our body breaks down protein and amino acids, and it's the fundamental building block for everything. Protein is so funny when you ask some of our, they're like, everybody takes whey protein, don't they? And you're like, no, very few people take enough. And so, I mean, this is like the difference of like performance and what's in practice. And so protein is number 1, right? Number 2 is omega-3s. And omega-3s are not all created equal. And this is one of the things, like the gap between quality and normal in this is like the Grand Canyon wide and deep. Right. So not only is the amount of DHA and EPA important, how you source, where you source, the purity, the distilling is really, really important. And there are some great omega-3 companies out there, and then there's a lot that doesn't actually have the amount of DHA and EPA that are important, that are impactful for brain health and cellular health, et cetera. So like omega-3s, really important. And the last one is the one that surprises most people. Might not surprise you because you're a huge Stacey Sims fan. But it's creatine.
Right. Women, you need this thing, okay? Like I know you're afraid to take it because it's going to make you hold a little bit of water and the scale might look a little different. It is a game changer.
Stacey is very, very, very well. She talks about this so much more eloquently than I do. But creatine is essential when we think about energy production and efficiency in our body. Like in my caveman terms, it's like it helps our muscles be more efficient. It helps us, right? It helps our brain be more efficient when we think about turning turning fuel into energy. And so when we think about how do we maximize performance for life, it's all around minimizing disease states and maximizing our levers. And one of the biggest levers we have is exercise. And protein and creatine are really, really important for maximizing that exercise, maximizing our lean muscle mass. So those three things, like the consensus across our entire ecosystem says those are what matters.
Yep.
Right? Like if I said pick three, it's
those three.
Almost always those three. There's sometimes one in there or another one, but those are closet cases. And I think what's so important is those three have immense amount of clinical research behind them, all very, very safe, very impractical to get from your diet, very hard to get from your diet. And there's no real issues, side effects, cross-reactivity. I mean, the only thing like with creatine is maybe it helps you hold some water weight, but at the end of the day, we're not talking like 10 pounds. You're talking like maybe half pound or a pound at most, right? So those are the three that are like the non-negotiables. We call them the Momentous three. In my opinion, if you got rid of everything else you're doing and just did those and make sure you hit your protein content, you got omegas and you did creatine daily and you trained and you slept, you would cover a lot of your bases. But then, right, you master those, then you say, what can I do here? Or for you, it's like, I get my blood work and I'm low here. That's great. That's precision. Now I take this, right? And if this doesn't change, I need to take more. Or if it does change, I take less. And then there's a lot of other things that are great, right? Like as an athlete and doing crazy adventures, like there are some things that are non-negotiable for you to perform that way. And for me, there are some things that are non-negotiable as a founder, an executive, and a father, right? Like in terms of like when I think about my travel and sleep.
And how do you manage your sleep routine?
At home, I'm really consistent.
Okay.
Right? I have an 8 sleep and I love it.
Okay, tell us about the 8 sleep.
Here's a promotion. I'm not paid. I have no affiliation. I actually don't even know the 8 sleep team. But 8 sleep basically helps control the temperature of the bed. And like I just run hot. Like, I run hot in all aspects of my life. I wake up like burning hot. And part of it is like when I train really hard,
you're burning calories.
And I'm burned at night. And what it does is like my sleep setting is very, very low in terms of my temperature. And my wife's is like, it's called neutral, and I'm like -6 on it. And so it allows us to have, right, a bed that has the right amount of covers and blankets and the room temperature not be insane. Because like my ideal of a room is like 62 degrees. And she's like, this is insane. So when I change time zones, I'm really habitual with that. When I'm on the road, when I'm just like traveling to LA and back, I'm very, very habitual around sleep pack, right? And it's just like, how do I maximize that? But I am pretty consistent in terms of like bedtimes. I'm consistent about wake up times. That helps. Like consistency has the biggest driver in sleep. But the 8 sleep has really changed sleep for me.
I have a bedtime. And then like when I wake up, because otherwise you're running behind no matter what the next day. So I'm pretty religious about my bedtime. And then my wake up time I'm more flexible on because I want my body to wake up naturally as often as possible.
There's lots of nights I literally fall asleep in my boys' beds while they fall asleep, which is like a cool.
That's a fun thing.
And I get woken up with like go to sleep in our bed. And you're like, wait, where am I? So
speaking on performance, because we talked about this a little bit before, you have built yourself a little ecosystem of other businesses that are really all about this human performance and just in a slightly different niche. So let's just compliment those guys because you guys together have been able to move forward, bouncing ideas off of.
I think what's really unique is there's a lot of innovative companies in this category trying to do it differently. Not in supplements, in health, wellness, optimization, and a lot of really great entrepreneurs and innovators. I'd say like my favorite brand of all time is, I love them all, but Maui Nui Venison. Maui Nui Venison is like, when I think about whole foods first, like Maui Nui is definitely a part of my life on there. I really, really love my plunge. So cold
Yes,
plunge.
yes,
So
yes,
I'm a
yes.
plunge in the sauna.
What do you compare that to cryo? The cold plunge to cryo?
To me, it's totally different.
Yeah.
The cold plunge, the ritual for me,
Yeah.
is very important, and it's also, I find when I cold plunge, I consume less caffeine. I'm way more alert and all of that. And then sauna just has so many health benefits. And
Who's your favorite sauna brand? Because there's
it's
so
plunge.
many.
Plunge makes a sauna.
You like their plunge
Yeah.
sauna too?
Yeah. And then Go Ruck is like you talked about.
I love I love my ruck.
Nobody makes a better rucking sack. So it's a backpack that holds weight is all it is.
Well, it fits tight to your back,
Yeah.
right? So when you're doing the workout, it's not throwing your posture off and all the different pieces. I mean, they've done the research.
Yeah, it is. It is really, really incredible. And then clothing brand that I really love is Roan. They actually just launched a women's line, but really active business wear kind of combination. And they do a lot around mental health, and they really are passionate about giving back and bringing awareness to mental health and community and bringing community, which I think is really, really important through there. So those are my closest favorite brands in the ecosystem that I believe that are doing things more.
I think we're at a stage of humanity where that's our responsibility.
Yeah, it is responsibility or obligation, and I think it's an obligation.
Yeah.
Right, and that obligation, a lot of us are failing at.
So we're changing that, right? That's why you're listening and following along to learn the brands that we've done the research for you on to help us move this place into a better spot. So, all right, how do we get a hold of you? How do we find you? Where do we start our Momentous 3-pack?
The Momentous, the Momentous 3, we're at livemomentous.com is our website. You can just Google search for Momentous, super easy. I do not do social media.
I know, you're only under Live Momentous. I like that.
I have a LinkedIn that I am quasi-active on, and I think it's just Jeff Byers.
Yep.
You'll find it on there, but yeah, like we as a company are on socials. Momentous.com. We're on Amazon. We're on our website. So
yeah, great. Well, Jeff, I just want to thank you and Erica, who's not here today.
Oh, she's right. She walked in.
She walked in. She's hiding. Yeah. Thank you both for doing the work that you're doing and leading the way that you are and giving us a product that we can stand behind.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.